Day 838 off the grid. The Xantrix has been installed for a number of days now, and we've pretty much been without a generator for a number of weeks now. Well, just about. I think this is what, the third weekend or something without a generator. It's a good thing that it's been really sunny the last couple of days. The Xantrix is running really sweet, but that's not why I'm in here. Yesterday I kind of noticed, but today I really noticed earlier in the day, pretty much midday when the sun was right up and the batteries were you know, fully charged, so we're in the PWM stage. The Stecker charge controller here was playing up. Instead of being in PWM mode, which you would witness by this meter kind of up here quivering around like that, it was bouncing up to nearly full current. The voltage was rising to 28.4 volts, and then it was shutting off, going back to zero of course, and staying there until the voltage fell to just under 26 volts. In other words, it was behaving like an on-off charge controller. And this ain't no on-off charge controller, this is a true PWM device. So I was going, what the fuck? I suspect this may have a secondary mode. It's probably a backup protection mode against gross over voltage or something like that. So if for any reason the PWMing fails, it's got this on-off mode to protect it. Well, it was going into that. Nothing's changed in the setup apart from, of course, the install of the new Xantrix inverter. So I was thinking, maybe the presence of the Xantrix is causing some kind of high frequency interference on the DC line, or maybe the non-presence of the Chinese inverter is allowing something to get through in some way that was previously being suppressed. I'm not sure which it is, but either way, I'm pretty sure that since the Xantrix been on here, this thing's been operating as an on-off controller. And that ain't good enough. So of course, the first port of call was to replace this. I thought I might replace this, but that's a bit of a pain in the ass. So before I did that, I thought I might just see if I can solve the problem. And I figured that if there was interference coming from the battery lines in, which come in here, maybe I can put a component there to suppress it. Initially I thought of an inductor in series with the line, and then I thought, well, it'd be easier to try a capacitor, wouldn't it? So guess what? That's what I did, and look what we have. This little baby capacitor is making a huge difference to the charging of the batteries, because now this thing PWMs and it doesn't skip a beat. I experimented with different values. I started out with a 0.47 microfarad non-polarized capacitor, a really vintage one. That kind of made it start behaving properly. Then I thought I might try something quite a lot bigger, so I put a 470 microfarad electrolytic there. That worked even better, but still not perfect. Then I tried a 1 microfarad, and bang, there she was. Awesome. I did briefly try then the big capacitor and the non-polarized capacitor together. That didn't seem to be that great. So I thought, well, I'll just settle with the 1 microfarad. I actually ended up installing this 3.3 microfarad in the end, just simply because it's an axial capacitor. Is it axial? Is that the axial ones? Comes out the axes, I guess. Or was it radial? Whatever. It's the capacitor where the wires come out the end. Just because it had some nice long wires on it, and it's really easy to sleeve it up and stick it in there. So 1 microfarad or 3.3 microfarads, they both work just fine, and it's been working beautifully all afternoon. Of course, the afternoon is pretty much over now. Also been doing a bit of work on the windmill, so I'll show you that through the magic of television in just a moment. There's more to day 838 off the grid than capacitors. Look, here is the windmill pole, here's the windmill post, and here's Vikey with the socket set putting one of the lag bolts in. doing pretty good considering this is pretty much his first time on such a tool. It does help that we're going into the end grain of this old post, but by the time we've got 4 of those in, they're like 90mm bolts. This is going to be help.
Yeah, because this is you done too, and I can do too.
Well, we'll see. Probably. This is my hinge arrangement. It's just an ordinary large door hinge I bought from Mitre 10. And a U-bolt. And originally I was going to put this bit into the post as you would and just use the U-bolts to strap this on to the pole, but I realised that wouldn't work so well, and it suddenly dawned on me I could just drill some extra holes and mount the U-bolt directly in here.
This is my first time really.
Yeah, careful to not let it slip off when it gets tight, because that can round off the edges and then it can't be tooled. These were a bit long, of course, to stop the hinge closing, so I just cut them off and there we go. Now the pipe's all the way down to the ground at the moment, but it's actually going to be shifted up a wee bit, but that was the easiest thing to do for now. But this will indeed tilt, which is what we want to service a windmill. Oh, that one's nearly done. It's starting to squash that rubber washer, and squash that right in, and then, oh, you see, when it gets tight it can slip. One more quarter turn. Yep, and that'll do it. Alright.
There you go.
And here we go. It's the end of day 838, and look, the pole is up. Not just leaning against it, but the actual pole that the wind turbine will be on. The bracket's complete. I actually had to take out that lag bolt and replace it with a very long, I think it's actually kind of a drywall screw, because of course these come down and fouled on there. When I tightened up these nuts, that's kind of bent a wee bit, which doesn't affect the operation of the hinge, yet it snugged that in down really good. I made this little block here out of another piece of tannalized timber, although it's fairly soft because it's been sort of wet for a long time. It'll dry out. I kind of carved it using the saber saw and a shitty old chisel so it would fit in there, and 8 nails, and that's pretty good. It's only a rest. It's not meant to bear any weight. So this rope, of course, is a temporary measure just to stop this from swinging away at the moment, but it's probably the rope I'll use while I'm working on it before I put some dead clamps on here, some saddles that'll just very long tech screws again into here. Probably put 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 of those, so we're not reliant on this. Is not really here to bear any thrust, side thrust of the pipe. This is just to hold it when it's in operation, when you're taking it down to work on it. Could show it down, but I don't have much film left on the camera. In fact, only a few more seconds, so this is basically it. But you'll see that next time when I do a bit more with it. Got to run the wire down the pipe. Got to come up with some sort of termination box too, but that'll be it now. We're out of video. See you later.